my talk. Here we go. How he said he living life as a gringo, where you question where you fit in every time you mingle. They say you do this with not enough that. My rapping is really bad. This life as a gringo.
Yes, hello and welcome to another episode of Life as a Gringo. I am Dramos, of course. Man, I am beyond excited about today's show. Man, if you are a fan of comedy or viral videos, you've definitely seen this man's work. He plays a creeper and does like the cholo fit. Those are his viral videos. He also is on the Hulu show This Fool. Frankie Quinones is going to be hopping on the show in just a little bit. And man, I'm really happy to have him share his story. I think it's one that's going to be just super inspiring for so many of you guys out there who, like me, are still waiting for your big break or had it a bit later than expected or whatever it might be. Frankie's story is definitely something that I think is gonna help, man, kind of make you feel like you're doing okay. And I'm really excited to share that. Also, quickly, because I feel like I haven't been promoting this properly, and I've been putting a lot of hard work into this. My book, Just Be, the pre-order is available right now. justbe.nyc. I got the physical copies in this last week, my samples, so we're finishing that up, and then the pre-orders are going to be going out, being shipped to everybody within the next, I'd say, 2 weeks. So go get your pre-order right now. It helps me know how many of the physical copies I should order. So definitely check that out. The website is justbe.nyc. Some dope merch on there. We're doing a lot of really cool things with that brand, so be on the lookout. A lot of resources for anybody who's trying to just kind of push themselves a little bit in this world and make some time for wellness and taking care of themselves. So I'm really excited about that. On the same topic, my other podcast, The Street Stoic, available everywhere you find podcasts, a short, like 10 to 15 minute podcast, Monday through Friday, combining hip hop lyrics with ancient Stoic philosophy, just meant to kind of give you that shot of inspiration to start your day. So definitely go check that stuff out. I've been working really fucking hard on all of it, to the point that I had an anxiety breakdown, I guess I should say, this last weekend. So please don't make it for nothing. I'm okay right now. I appreciate any concern, but I definitely, your boy just kind of cracked and was like, you know what? I am gonna have to take some deep breaths here, and it's gonna be an early night for me because I gotta just chill the fuck out and take care of myself and catch up on some rest. So that's what I did. But man, without further ado, let's bring on my guest for today's show. I'm really excited about it. And of course, we'll do it in our Mi Gente segment. Mi Gente. My guest today is a comedian, an actor, and writer whose viral videos like his Cholo Fit workouts have garnered millions of views. He also plays Luis on the Hulu show This Fool. Frankie Quinones, how you feeling, my bro?
I'm feeling good, homie. Thanks for having me.
Of course, man. I love it. We're coming live from the closet right now, which I love. Anybody watching the video version, I love this. We're keeping it real low key. I like it.
Right on, homie. Yeah, that's what's up. I gotta make it happen.
I love it, bro. I appreciate you. I mean, first and foremost, I really enjoy the show This Fool. I've liked it since you guys launched. I've been a fan, so I was really excited to get to talk to you all about it. I think like a lot of people, I first knew you from those Cholo Fit videos, and we've been big fans ever since. So, man, let's just kind of back up a little bit though. Before the show and the viral videos, I think is what really kind of sets you off to put you on a lot of people's radar. But I also know that you do stand up. So what kind of came first for you, kind of backtracking during that time period? Was stand up your first kind of love, and then the viral videos came after that, or was it the other way around?
No, yeah, it was stand up, man. Stand up was my first love, and then it's funny too because even today people are like, "Oh shit, he does stand up." I'm like, "Yeah,
right."
That's where I started, but even my stand up, I do like voices and storytell a lot, and I was like doing my impersonating my family already, so it naturally just led to like doing character work, and then getting deeper into it, and then getting into dressing up as the characters, and then just going for it, and then Creeper is a character based off my dad. He found his groove and did Cholo Fit rutina or the routine, and then that shit that's the thing that popped off for me, and then so when that jumped off, then I was able to sell some tickets and start touring on my own, and then and then it kind of just kept growing from there. Cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because we live in a world now where a lot of people start with the viral videos, then become stand-up comedians, essentially, right? Like they need something to then go into the real world and do something with. But I'm curious for you. I mean, you're of a different generation where you did start cutting your teeth in the world of stand-up, but the world of stand-up is kind of like this very tight-knit kind of almost brotherhood, right? There's a lot of like politicking that happens, same as kind of the music industry is like that. It's all kind of everybody knows everybody. There's a lot of opinions on people who are getting popular. Did you get a lot of shit at first where people kind of were like, oh, this is just this dude who makes these funny videos and now he thinks he could do stand-up? Was there kind of backlash at first?
Yeah. Yeah, because, as a, the stand-up, a lot of people in the stand-up community knew me as well. I wasn't a big name yet, obviously, but just like what you said, big pictures, because like, in the stand-up community, a lot of times like YouTubers or TikTokers, right, they would kind of, you got these stand-ups that are trying to work their way into these clubs and busting their ass. And some of them are really funny, but for whatever reason, they can't move tickets. And these comedy clubs, they got a business to run. So these TikTokers and these YouTubers start coming in and they're selling the shows out, but they didn't really have like a live act. Sometimes they just go up there and do a Q&A even, at the stand-up club. So you would get, legit stand-ups that, they get, they have words about it. They're like, man, this motherfucker, I'm over here busting my ass writing these jokes. And this dude has some viral YouTube videos. And now he's just up there like doing a Q&A. And so there was a little bit of a hump that I still have to work to get past. But for a while, it was like people were like, well, what's he going to do live? He's going to just run around the stage as Creeper. They didn't know that I actually was already a stand-up. So it took a while for people to like, finally they start coming out. They're like, oh shit, he does stand up. Like, okay. And then so it was definitely like a little hurdle that I had to overcome to prove that like I was actually a legit stand up on top of the viral video. So I was like, it was kind of funny. It worked. It was backwards for me. Yeah.
Right. Well, it's backwards from what people are used to these days. But anybody that's not familiar, can you kind of talk about that working stand-up comedian who's just trying to like make it, just trying to get one break, like how grimy of a life and hard of a life it is to be like that lower rung stand-up who's maybe getting some bookings, but you're playing, really small rooms in like random cities across the country. You're making barely any money. Like talk about that life. Cause I feel like not a lot, we all see like the Kevin Hart's of the world, or we see you with the TV show, but nobody really knows the grind that it is to be a stand-up comedian on their way up.
Yeah, homie. I really appreciate you asking these questions, man. Cause like for me, it was like, there was a kind of thing, he got lucky and made one viral video and here he is. And they didn't know the whole backstory. Like this September of this year will be 17 years since I started doing stand-up. You know what I mean? So it's like, it was a grind, homie. And then it's like, I remember like hitting open mics. You get that first gig where you get $20 and 2 free drinks and you're like, here we go, baby. You know what I'm saying? It's about to pop off for your boy, And then 10 years later, I'm 35 years old, sleeping on my homie's couch, just still trying to make it to that next gig. You know what I'm saying? And so there was definitely some like, I'd be in, little towns that were like grimy and, you're staying in roach motels. And I remember, man, there was some hotels like I would have to drive there. I used to work at a hardware store. And I'd be driving to some small town and for the weekend. And sometimes I got to go one time I had to go straight to the gig. And then I brought my homie with me, and Johan. And then so we did the gig and we didn't have time to check into the hotel yet. So we go to the hotel after. As soon as we open the door of the hotel, bunch of cockroaches scattered all over the place. And I'm like, I've been around cockroaches before, but this was like, these motherfuckers were running this place. So and so we had to slept with toilet paper in our ears and shit. Like, just because those motherfuckers will get in there, homie, in your ears. So we were like, I'm like, damn, man. And then that particular gig, the dude, he was like, oh man, the owner, it was like at a bar restaurant place. And the dude, he was like, man, that the owner was supposed to give me money for this. And don't worry though, I'm going to pay you. But for now we got Taco Bell in the back, man. And I'm like, this motherfucker's he's paid us with Taco Bell, dog. And we got to sleep with these roaches and shit. Like, but it's like, I love, like reliving those moments and remembering those days, because it's like you can never forget them. But it was like, we went through that whole thing, man. And then my first big break was my boy Craig Robinson, who you know from like The Office, Hot Tub Time Machine, all that. He I opened for him one time at Cobb's Comedy Club up in San Francisco, and he just took a liking to me, man, and he took me under his wing, and he hit me up the following week, and he's like, you want to hit the road with me? And I was like, yeah, sure, no problem, Craig. I was trying to keep it cool. Dog, I hung up the phone. I was doing cartwheels and shit, like jumping up and down, and that shit went for 6 years. I was touring with him, wow. So I was, so I was just doing stand up, that was it. And I was at that time when I was opening for him is when Cholo Fit went viral. Me and some homies sold the show to TBS at that time. That was 2017, and then and then it just hasn't stopped from there. So it was so stand up is really what got me to where I'm at today.
Man, you're speaking to my heart, because I'm a DJ first and foremost, and I remember the grind when I was playing quinceañeras and things like that, and then finally getting some of the big breaks and things like that. Everybody thinks you just popped up out of nowhere, so I definitely can empathize with that. You hit a couple of things though that I wanted to touch on, and you talk about Craig Robinson kind of taking you under your wing, right? I'm sure at this point you've seen what's happened with George Lopez and Ralph Barbosa, right? Where you had
of course, man.
George Lopez on a podcast kind of throwing some shade at Ralph Barbosa, who's a younger comic, and a lot of conversations about George Lopez sort of not being somebody who is willing to uplift that next generation and be a mentor. First and foremost, I guess your thoughts as a comic of somebody of the community when you kind of see interactions like this one, what kind of is your reaction?
Yeah, the thing with this thing is that's always been George's, he's been saying that kind of stuff for years. Like, hey, I'm looking out for myself. I'm keeping the number one spot, in a way, like, that's not what I believe, but like, he has that right, man. He did, like, to me, he'll always be a legend in my eyes. When he dropped the Why You Crying special, I was literally jumping up and down in my living room. And, that was a long time ago. He was Paul Rodriguez was the first dude I saw on TV that looked like me. And then when George came out with that thing, I was like, damn, it was a big inspiration. I was like, I think I could do this shit, and he just nailed every bit. I felt seen. And I felt like when I saw him, white people going to his shows and all that, I'm like, damn, man, like, we could do this. And, but for me, I'm like, I'm a comedy fan first, and we need comedy to thrive, both older and younger generations, for us to be able to do it. And to me, I'm like, it was so funny, man, because a couple people had told me about Ralph. And then one of my best friends, who she's not even in the comedy world, she had hit me up. She goes, yo, you seen this kid from, he's from Texas, but he lives in New York, and his name's Ralph Barbosa. And I went into a wormhole watching like all his little clips, and I was fucking dying, man. I was like, oh, this motherfucker is the truth right here. Like, he is hilarious, homie. And like, for being a 26-year-old who's already pretty much made it, he's making money already. He has a good head on his shoulders, you know what I mean? But in like, I'm not trying to come to anybody's defense, but that's what George does, and comedians in general on podcasts, they talk shit. And so in the full context of the whole interview, they were already on the subject of, hey, how'd you make it, and helping other people and all that. And Ralph just did Andrew Schultz's podcast, and they addressed that. And and Ralph is real cool about it. He's like, man, I wasn't even mad. He's like, they're talking shit. That's what you do on podcasts. And George has been saying this shit for years, but it's just that clip like went viral. And then when it dropped on TMZ, I had everybody texting me, man. Like, we all had to kind of like, hey, man, what's up? Like, how we like, what's your opinion on this? And da-da-da. I was like, nobody needs to take sides here. It is what it is. I'm cool with George. George has been cool to me. And, but also I got mad love and respect for the younger generation. I'm 42 years old, so it's like, I come from an older thing and all that, but Ralph is like, he kind of has an old soul with it too. He's just he's so confident up there. His energy on stage. He's just a great writer. I'm rooting for that. I'm rooting for that dude all the way. You know what I mean? So and I'm glad that George called him, because George is wearing it right now, homie. Everybody's going in on him, and it's like, but he's gonna be fine, homie. He's still gonna film 2 movies this year. He's still got a TV show. He's still gonna sell tickets. But I think that Ralph going out there and mentioning how George called him without making it a public thing. He just like, hey man, I didn't mean no bad, da da da. And Ralph even said like, damn, I was starstruck when he called. Like,
right.
He says what he says. Like, I don't really fuck with this comedy, but I still respect him, and he's still a legend and all that. And Andrew Schultz made a good point. He was like, yeah, you're a comedian who's Mexican, but George was a Mexican comedian, so that you can be a comedian who's Mexican, because George already did the whole like, hey, this is how we do, and this is this, and then so now you can just come out and be just whatever, talk about whatever, and be a clever writer and be Mexican, and you don't have to even address those things because George already did it for us. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't know. I was just like, I love Ralph, man. I reached out to him. Like, it was funny. Like a week before this shit popped off, I just sent him a message. I said, man, you funny motherfucker, dog. Keep going. I'm rooting for you. And then literally 10 days later, this whole shit pops up. I was like, oh, damn. But it's working out for Ralph, man. His following is tripled.
That's what I was going to say. At the end of the day, it's working wonders for Ralph, because now everybody's talking about him. And then the good thing is, because he's great at what he does and he already has that catalog, people can go back and he genuinely can make the most of this moment. You know what I mean? And he is getting, ironically, where, George is not trying to kind of pass the torch. He kind of did it by accident by having that sort of commentary, But I mean, I get what you're saying. I think at the end of the day, it's like, you can't ever tell somebody like, yo, you have to be passing the torch back down, right? Like, I can't tell somebody what they should or shouldn't do with their success, right? Like, just like I can't tell you what you should do, shouldn't do with your money, right? That's like a personal thing, and you get to do it. But I think when it comes to Latin comics, and I think in the idea of Latin creatives as a whole, then you get even bigger when it comes to Hollywood, right? And how many people are in that upper echelon of actors or stories that are getting told, we are in a very distinct minority, you know what I mean? And I think that I would hope that people would want to each kind of do their part to kind of change a bit of those narratives. And of course, George, just by a product of his greatness, right, did that and broke down a lot of doors, like you're saying. But I think that that's kind of where some of the sting is, where it's just kind of like, listen, we have to fight and fight and fight to be heard, or to have, anybody give a fuck about our stories as a whole. You, as somebody who has that leverage to create and put pressure on people to like take notice of certain, people who are talented that are younger, or try to tell certain stories, like you're not making the most of it, when of course your greatness created that, but so did also the community that stood behind you and said, this is our guy and we're going to back him and watch everything that he does,
Right. Yeah, man. It's one of those things. I mean, everybody that knows me and all my peers and all that, they know, because to me, I'm like, dog, if there's more of us that are as funny or just as funny, then that means that gente is just going to come to that many more shows a year or whatever it is. Like there's enough for all of us, man. It's like,
right.
But I get it. Like, George growing up with his bitter grandmother raising him, and, it was a kind of a dog eat dog world, for him. Like, I get why he has that mentality, and Hollywood can be very much that. But
right
at the same time, though, it's like, man, like, there's no reason to talk down about any other Latino or try to block their way.
Yes.
And right now, all that stuff's coming out, like the steps he took to make sure he kept the number one spot and all that. And hopefully, like, we all learn from that and see what we could do, because it's like you said, homie, we already have to work so much harder than everybody else. And then, it's like, which is the case for, more than just us too. But it's like, you know what I mean? For like networks and stuff like that. It's like, there's always like the one Latino show a year.
Right. There's never like too many white shows. There's never like, a question of, is this white story going to be universal enough for everybody? You know what I mean? There's never that question when something's being created, but for us there is. So we have like this burden that we have to kind of fight, and kind of band together almost. Yeah,
for sure, man. To me, I'm like, nobody owes anybody anything. Like, I don't,
Sure.
You know, I know I'm not that big or famous, but you know, I don't need to go out of my way or anything, but it's just something I do in general.
Mhm.
It's like younger comics and all that. I'm like, I'm here for you, homie. Like da. It's like, you know, you know, I do whatever I can or give whatever advice I can and do what I could do. But also, yeah, you know, we have our own shit we got to, you know, worry about and work on too and stuff like that. But to me, there's no reason to like talk down on another
Right.
Latino comic who's doing his thing or anybody. Like, I don't care if you're a TikToker that's filling the room. Like, how could I knock your hustle? Whether you just went viral last week and got lucky. Hey, the universe, God meant for that for you. And hopefully you handle it the right way. And, you know, and to me, I'm like, I'm good, homie. Like, I don't want to do anybody wrong. I want to do it the right way. I want to help, you know. And then the Latino community, we're notorious for, you know, which is the thing being brought up with this Ralph and George thing is like, you know, a Hispanic or a Latino's worst enemy is another Latino and all that. And that's sad, homie, that's actually a saying and a thing. And it's like, we see it amongst communities. Like, you know, I grew up in you know, in a predominantly, you know, around Latinos and, you know, and specifically the LA area. So it's like, it's most, you know, if you weren't Mexican and you're Latino, you would have to explain that. Like, no, I'm actually Puerto Rican. No, actually, I'm Puerto Rican, or actually, I'm you know, Salvadorian or Guatemalan or Cuban or, you know, Colombian or whatever it is. Like, you know, because you were just kind of, if you were in Califas, and especially in LA, you're just, if you're Latino, you're like, everybody just assumes you're Mexican. It wasn't until I got older and comedy took me to the East Coast. And all of a sudden, I'm the minority Latino, you know? I'm like, they're like, Papa. I'm like, oh shit, Papa. Like, what's that? You know, like, you know, and then they all came, they fuck with it though. You know, they fuck with Cholo Fit. They don't say the T at the end. They go Cholo Fit, Papa. You know, like, all right. I'm like, all right, homie, that's what's up. You know, thank you. Like, hey. No, but you know, that was when I discovered the world. And then going to Miami and all that, and seeing all the inner beef, dog, which is sad amongst, you know, Cubans hating Mexicans, Venezuelans hating Colombians hating and I'm like, really, y'all, really? That's what we're doing, like, and you know, and then you got the man over here, or the you know, the being like, yep, there they go, they just divide each other on their own, you know, and it's
exactly.
It's so sad,
our own
bro.
worst enemy. Yeah, it really is, baby. Because shit is rough out here, and it could be a lot easier if we actually stop doing the nonsense. You know, like even what you were kind of saying, I wanted to get back to was like you said. In 2017, was it TBS that the original show idea was pitched to?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that show was I'm in a sketch group called the Dress Up Gang, and we had a show called My Roommate, My Friend, and it was like, it's dry, subtle humor, like a little bit weird. I love it, man. We got like some viral videos out there. One's called Cute House, and there's another one called Frankie in the Water that recently went viral. And it's about me in the pool drinking beers, and everybody thinks I peed in the pool, but it's a mystery, you know. But yeah, if you just go to the dressupgang.com, all that's there. And but we got the opportunity to make a show, man, 10 episodes, and that was the game changer. Like, we had already I was delivering a sandwich that day. You know, I'm like 35, 36 years old, still like bussing tables, just trying to make it to the next gig. You know, I was always getting fired from restaurants, though, because I was request days off for comedy. And then that day, we had, you know, that we sold that pilot. They called me. I tell this story a lot, but I was like, that was the day that the last time I did anything else for money was that day, and I was delivering a sandwich. They called me. They like, dude, we sold the show. They want 10 episodes. I started crying and shit. I almost didn't deliver the sandwich. I almost just ate that motherfucker, you know. But then I delivered it, dog, to this white college kid in UCLA. I mean, not that his race had anything to do with it, but it did a little bit for me at that time. You know, I was like, and I told that little white homie, I said, bro, you're my last delivery. You know, we just sold the show to TBS, and he didn't believe me at all. Of course, he just okay, bro, yeah, good. And then I went in the car and called my mom, and I was crying and shit. And then like a month later after that is when Cholo Fit went viral. So shit was already happening. And then we just got to work on that. But even you know, and that's when I started learning about the industry, because a merger, they gave us a premiere day, everything. And there was a AT&T Time Warner merger that happened. And they got rid of the people that developed our show and helped make it. They all moved to other companies. They shelved like 4 shows and ours was one of them. And they never premiered it. Nothing. I mean, we made all 10 episodes. Crazy, dog. That sounds like, damn, y'all motherfuckers got that much money where you could pay for this whole show and just be like, you know what? Let's just put this to the side for a little bit here. You know, it's just like, we're like on this emotional roller coaster, like, our lives are changing and da-da-da. Like, we had Dude, it was crazy.
But that's such a like typical story of the industry that nobody ever hears and you rarely gets talked about, right? Because there are so many people who have like development deals or, you know, get to shoot a pilot that never ends up getting anywhere beyond the pilot. And then you shoot off fucking 10 episodes and it just gets shelved, right? Like, I think people don't recognize like how difficult it is to get from the idea to the day that it actually airs on TV. Like, I swear I have PTSD from like, I never celebrate an opportunity until like the shit is tangibly in front of me. I don't want to tell anybody about it because I have that anxiety of so many times like just getting let down at the last minute, you know? Like, speak about that a little bit, bro. Like, what was that feeling where you're just like telling everybody about it and you're all gassed up, you're shooting the show, and then you can never share it with anybody, essentially, like on a public outing like that?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was, oh man, it hurt though, you know? Because everybody, you know, it was all getting hot, especially just for people that fucked with me or like on my social media. I'm like, oh yeah, we're there. What are you filming? We're filming this show, y'all. It's coming out in December.
Yeah.
And then for it to be not, it's just like, it was embarrassing really. Cause they're like, oh bro, what happened? You know, it was like, but you know, I was still grateful because like, you know, we still got paid and still worked. But to your point though, like I learned real quick, like there's a lot of people that blow a lot of smoke up your ass in this industry. Like, oh my God, we love everything you're doing. We're going to do this and we're going to get fucking John Leguizamo and da-da-da and all these people. And we're going to do this project. And you're like, what? And you eat it up in the beginning. You're like, oh shit, dog, it happened. You know, I got my, got my shit. And then, you know, it just turns into nothing, homie. It's just all. And so it's like you said, I like, even now, like when I film shit, I don't get excited about it until I see it on the TV. Like, all right, cool, there it is. Like, because it's like that. You get your heart broken all the time in this fucking industry. I'm sure with music too. Homie, it's just like, you know, now as it happens and you get tainted a little bit, you kind of harden up and you know how to you get better at navigating your way around that shit. You know what I mean? Where it's like, all right, you know how to protect yourself better and who to surround yourself with and who you can see straight through and who's like, you know, who's just bullshitting and who's about some real shit. And in the end, you find your tribe. And because we're artists, homie, we just want to make dope shit for people. Right. I'm just trying to get to the people. I'm just trying to make people laugh genuinely in my heart. Like, I'm like, we're all going to die one day, homie. I got one life to live here. If I can make as many people laugh as I can, like, boom, that's my jam, homie. Like, the money and all that is taking care of itself. Like, I'm not on some like, fuck that, I need to be number one, this and that. Like, I'm just trying to I'm trying to bring some joy, and it's therapeutic to me personally at the same time. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, let's get it. You know, it's like, and like, I don't care. It's like, it's, you know, and then Latinos and all that. And I know like the theme of the show, it's like, but my parents were both born here. You know, I was born here, and then we got to deal with all those struggles too. Like, you know, like you've talked about many times of like, oh, you're not Latino enough. You're not Chicano enough. You're not Mexican enough. Or you're a little too white. Or you're a little too Mexican, homie. Or you're a little too Chicano. You're too... what the fuck? How, you know, like, can I live or what?
Yeah. You're battling like so many, like you're finding it hard to be authentic, essentially, right? Because people just keep fucking telling you what you are or aren't at the end of the day, right? And you're just like, dude, I'm just trying to like exist and create some shit and like not be unhappy in life. You know what I'm saying? And people always want to interject their own ideas in there. But I mean, like, for you, when that happens, was there a part of you that like internalizes it almost as maybe I'm not good enough, or, you know, like if I was good enough, they would have then felt the need to air the show. Was there a part of you that ever internalized that, or were you kind of able to just be like, fuck it, on to the next thing?
Yeah, I mean, it sucked because we knew you know, and it wasn't like it wasn't like my show. It was a group of us, you know, and these fools were all white. I was the only Latino in the group. Yeah. And so, you know, I was pumped on that because I was already, my character work was kind of already out there on the internet. So that's when I was able to lean into like my shit. And then, you know, and then with this other thing, I was able to show like my, you know, that I could be versatile, you know what I'm saying? Or that my taste in comedy was, like the palette was big or whatever it was. And so it was definitely discouraging as fuck, man. Cause it was like, damn, we poured our heart and souls into it. You're doing the 12, 15-hour days. And then all of a sudden they just like, no, we're going to put this shit on hold. And so that's why even when Cholo Fit went viral, my boy Chris Estrada is one of my best friends who plays Julio, a creator, co-star on This Fool on Hulu. At that time, we were already homies, when we were doing this TBS show. And I remember when I met him when he had just started doing stand-up. And he already had like an old soul kind of vibe. But he was my opener when I was touring. And so we went all around the nation. I'm doing Creeper and seeing where it would work and where it wouldn't and where we were getting support at. And he was rocking with me that whole time for like about 4 years. And then during that time, he started working on This Fool with some longtime homies of mine, Matt, Pat, and Jake. And so I was able to share what I went through with, the TBS show with him. So he was like, I'm like, so we kind of always had our guard up on that end, like, hey man, this could all go to shit any second. But it like the way you can look at it is like, because you get script deals and you get pilot. There's so many dead scripts out there and dead pilots, but you gotta look at it as like, okay, it's work, homie. It's another job at least. Obviously, you always wanted to get it picked up. You wanted to go to the next level, but in the end, it's a business, and you just got to be grateful that you got that next check coming in, whatever it is. It's just that we're with our group of people or our community. It's like we constantly have to navigate around that whole thing. Like, oh, am I not being Latino enough? Am I being too Latino? Or like, what do these white homies want that are gonna buy this shit? Hopefully, it's like it's all that shit. Like, are we being too specific? Is always like a term loosely used. Like, dog, I've gone to pitch shows like that are like straight up my Chicano upbringing, whatever it is. And sometimes these people that are taking these pitch meetings for these networks, like there could be a 27-year-old white girl from Idaho that just got this executive job, and and I'm trying, and they're like, oh, so what's a cholo? And I'm like, it's like, all right, it's this and da da da, and then dog, I'm no joke, true story. I was pitching. I don't want to say what network it was, but at the end of the pitch, and I'm like being there, like pouring my heart and soul out, shooting for the moon, to stars. Like, oh man, this could be it. I'm like, bam, here's my story. Here's what I want the show to be. And at the end, the girl's looking at me. She's like, wow, this is really specific. Like that. That was her response, dog. And then she's like, okay, we'll get back to you. And I was like, fuck, man. Like, how the fuck do you get past that, homie? You know what I mean? And like, and still feel like you're being true to yourself. And so in the end, man, that's what we did. We're just like, fuck it. Let's just keep doing us, man. And eventually it'll, hopefully it'll happen. Like, it's all we could do. That's one of the things that I like about social media and all that stuff is it gives you an opportunity to get straight to the people, just like bam. And so it's like, but in the end, with the opportunity we got with the Hulu show, it's like, we're doing our shit, man. And people, not only is our community, watching it, like we're getting good reviews and comments from these white publications and stuff like that. Like, this is a well-written show. It's grounded. It's authentic. It's funny as fuck. Like, da da da. Yeah. I'm like, hell yeah, homie. So hopefully that not only helps us, but other homies that are trying to tell their their specific stories, but
no, it definitely does, bro. Because I've been in a couple of those meetings as well, and recently This Fool gets mentioned now as like the success story, and it is. I can tell you for a fact. I can't be too specific right now either, but I was in a meeting recently about a project I'm working on, and This Fool gets mentioned as like, this is kind of the target mark now. Like, we want you to do something, how they're so authentic. We want you to be able to capture that same kind of authenticity. So like, I can tell you, I can promise you, like, the work that you guys are doing is knocking down the door for all of us right now. Like, to be able to go into these meetings and them actually understand that like there can be success around a story that is, catered to a very specific group of people, but the story itself can be universal and funny as long as it's well written, right? So I can tell you that right now and make sure I share that with you, because it's just so dope to be able to see right now.
Oh, right on, man. Yeah, thanks for saying that. And it's true because like there's a lot of our stories, homies, as Latinos that get put on the screen, and some of them just there's a lot of them that kind of just they miss the mark, and it's like,
Yeah.
and it could be not at the fault of the creator. It's just that when all the steps it takes to get something on TV, a lot of hands get involved, a lot of cooks are in the
Right.
kitchen, and there's the network notes, and now that having experience in this industry and how it works, sometimes I'll see something on TV and it's not good. I'll be like, damn,
Mhm.
that was probably a great idea in the beginning, but
Right.
it probably got turned to shit by all the fucking hands that got to get in there. And then sometimes we see our stuff on TV and I'm like, damn, you almost had it, but you just missed the mark. And it could be
Mm.
something like the wardrobe, something as just simple as that. Like, and so that was what it was always important on the show, is even down to the wardrobe, down to the everything, like that it felt authentic. Because to me, I'm like, if you can make a story or a character or the world of the show feel authentic, then
Mhm.
I'm gonna be drawn into it like that much more. And then you could kind of tell the story and take me on whatever ride after that, or the audience on whatever ride you want to do after that. And
Sure.
and it's so doable because where there's so many stories in the Latino community, you know what I'm saying? And it's endless almost. And if we just get better at uh getting more of us experience in the background of it and the production of it, and not just having these like, white executives just throwing brown faces on the screen, and and
Mhm.
they're writing the stories and trying to figure it out. Like, it's got to be more of us getting more experience and all the background stuff too. And then I
Yeah.
think that it being optimistic, I think that it's going to get better for us, man. And then like you're going to see these more these stories coming from all types of different Latinos, and in them being beautiful and feeling authentic, and for it just reading for people across the board of all backgrounds being like, fuck yeah, like I didn't grow up like that, but I'm drawn
Mhm.
to it and I could relate. I'm finding ways to relate to it because da 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 or da da da, and it's just like, if something's good, homie, and it's good, like people of all backgrounds are gonna watch it. It's just like, because it sucks when it's like, oh, they canceled that show because it was da da da. Like, even I've
Yeah.
been like, they didn't cancel that show because it was too whatever. It just wasn't good. But and I'm not trying to talk shit on anybody. I'm always happy
Sure,
to see
sure.
brown faces on TV. But
Yeah.
I just think we're gonna get better at telling our stories, and I think it's gonna be good. There's gonna be more and more opportunities for us.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, let's talk about this fool a bit. I know you mentioned Chris Estrada, who is the co-star and also the creator on the show, and I know I've seen him in the background of your Cholo Fit videos and things like that before. I was like rewatching some of it. I was like, damn, it's beautiful to see you guys go back that far. And you talked about him opening, but like for your comedy sets when you were on tour, let's talk about how difficult it was to go from this fool, the idea, to this fool being an actual show that got to be aired on Hulu. Like, what was the process like? Was it easier than you imagined? Was it more difficult? Kind of break it down for us a little behind the scenes.
Oh man. Uh well, what was funny is, so Chris was working on it, and then a friend of mine, Pat Bishop. So Matt, Pat, and Jake are these dudes. Matt Eagle Brenson, Pat Bishop, Jake Weissman. The Jewish homies. They're cool as fuck, and I've known them for 13 years. And so
Wow.
it was those guys. They did a show called Corporate on Comedy Central. They did 3 seasons of it, and they all used to do stand up also. So that's how we originally met. And then
Mhm.
with the thing with Chris is, when you see him do stand up, like his little 10-minute set when he first started was like, you could see a show in it. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And so they approached him and they were like, oh, what's up? And then, so, Chris was like, hey man, the homies, Pat, man, Jake, they want to try to develop something. And I was like, fuck yeah. And so he was always Chris was always chiming me in, or I would talk to Matt, Pat, and Jake, and I was like, all right, it's a long process, and then they're just like working on developing the world out and all that stuff, and then they got Fred Armisen on board, and then
Mm.
Fred Armisen took a liking to it, and he went out and pitched it with with the guys and helped sell it. And so they got some offers, and And even after it got picked up to do the pilot, like Chris was even like, because he had never really acted before, nothing, you know. He was just like, he was like genuinely like, oh, who's gonna play Julio, you know? And they're like, you are, you know. And he's like, oh shit. But he got on his grind, man. He got an acting coach, started taking acting classes, and just went for it. And then they were like, oh man, we don't know if we're gonna have you in the writer's room or what character we'll have you, but we want you to be involved in some capacity. And I'm like, fuck yeah, man, let's do this. And so they were trying to go for a more on the nose character with Luis, like a bigger, tougher looking vato, like tatted up, like bigger than Chris, like just boom, like more like tough guy, you know? And and they were having trouble casting that guy. So eventually, like, it was a couple of the producers were like, man, let's have Frankie like read for it just to maybe, you know, figure this thing out. And I was like, all right. So I wasn't thinking nothing of it. I started reading for it. And then they were like, fuck, man, maybe we should submit you to try to, you know, see if maybe you could be a contestant to get the part, you know? Cause in the end, like it was ABC Signature and Hulu. Like they have to approve everything. You know what I mean? It's not like you could just be like, nah, this is who we want. So you have to convince them. And they were not, you know, in their defense, I really didn't have anything crazy out there that could prove to them. Like they knew it. Like Chris was like, I knew I could do it. You know what I mean? Like that's who I grew up around. All my cousins were like that, like kind of, you know, so I was like, it took a lot of convincing, and they fought Chris and the producers until the very end. They were like, you know, we love Frankie, but we just don't see it. You know, we don't see him playing this role. And because, you know, sometimes comedians or like sketch comedy comedians will get like a rap for, they're like we're not real actors, you know? Right. Like, no. Well, he does sketch comedy. He's not a real actor, you know? And it's like, and Bobby Lee always gets heated about that subject. That's my boy, Bobby. He's like, what the fuck do they think we're doing when we're sketch acting? We're acting. What the fuck when we're doing sketch comedy? Right. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, homie. And so anyways, it was basically like Chris and Matt Engelbrenson, and eventually Pat and Jake got on board, and then Jonathan Groff, who produced Blackish and all that, he's a producer on the show too, and he was like, fuck yeah, man. He's like, Frankie's making this role more interesting. He's bringing like a Joe Pesci vibe. And once he said that, and he convinced one exec at ABC Signature who still wasn't on board, he was like, I don't see it, but you guys haven't been wrong yet. So, all right, we'll push for Frankie. And I ended up getting the part. And then boom, homie, I was like, let's go. And we killed that shit. And then I got a Spirit Award nomination and all that. And, you know, so they all like call me to congratulate me. Even the people that like didn't see it, you know, they're like, right. Because, you know, it makes everybody look good. You know, they're like, oh, yeah, well, you know, it's our show. So I was like, I was so grateful for the opportunity, man. And I knew, if it wasn't for them, I probably would have been involved in the show somehow, but it might not have been as you know, one of the stars or whatever. So I'm like so grateful it worked out. And then and we're doing our shit. Like that's my family right there. It's like, you know, my it's just like, it's everybody's proud of my family. I was always grateful for any work I got, any acting work. I had done some acting before, but this one was like, boom, we're doing our shit, you know, like, so it was like, hell yeah. So it was cool, man.
And it's dope to me because, you know, you guys are like the new kids on the block, kind of, so to speak, right? When it comes to something like this, you're talking about Chris doesn't have any, you know, acting experience as a lead actor, and they don't believe in your track record as an actor, but you know, you guys banding together and being like, yo, I think Frankie, you know, needs to be in this, and we're not kind of budging on it. Like, I'm sure that had to be tough for them because, like you said, shows don't just get made overnight. Things get dropped right away without, you know, somebody blinking an eye. That had to be, you know, I don't know if you could speak for them, but I'm sure that had to be tough for them to kind of be like pushing that so hard, knowing that these things get taken away so easily as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And so now, you know, they're like, I'm like so grateful to them, you know, to like Matt, Pat, Jake, Chris, like, man, the EPs, Jonathan Groff, Fred Armisen. I'm like, man, thank you guys for pushing for me. I'm like, and they're like, they turn the tables like, homie, like, thank you. Like, you made us look so good because we had to fight for you. And then now it worked out like it did. And now the show's getting these nominations, and it's and so they're like, you helped us like elevate our shit. I'm like, fuck, homie. It's so dope, but it works out that way. You know, I know it's few and far between. I know it's kind of like catching lightning in a bottle sometimes. So I'm just so grateful, man, to be like part of that. And it's like, and then just like, I'm just channeling so much of my family in that character. So it's just like, I think so what helps it feel so grounded and dope. But it's like, yeah, it's all very risky. It's a very risky business. And so I'm glad it worked out in this case. And then, and being able to work like a Emmy fucking winning actor like Michael Imperioli, it's like, I was like so nervous, man, to be able to work with him. And then he just like, he helped me elevate my game in so many ways, man. Just like he put the confidence in me, because I was like, oh fuck, man. Like, there's some dramatic scenes in there and da-da-da. And I'm like, I got some that are just him and I, and he would just like, yo, man, I thought you were classically trained. He was like, I told your boy Chris. I was like, oh, what school did he go to? And Chris is like, he just stand up, man. And he took some junior college acting classes back in the day, but that was it, And then I got an acting coach here and there, but it was mostly that. And he was like, what, And so he just drilled into me. He's like, dude, don't ever doubt yourself. Like, you got it. Like, I've been doing that. He was like, I've been doing this shit a long time, Frankie, and you got it. He's like, let's do this, And so, man, so we run scenes together, do the thing. And he really just like helped my confidence just boom. And so, I got mad love and respect for that dude, because he didn't have to do that, to take his extra time to run lines with me and, take me to the side and kind of game me up and boost me up and give me words of encouragement. He didn't have to do that, and he did. And, and I think that's just shows the type of person and character he is. He's like, and that's what added to the set. He's like probably the biggest star on the set, and nobody's a diva on that set. Nobody's like, oh, don't talk to me. I need to stay in character and just bring my blue M&Ms to my trailer, and that's it. Like there's none of that shit going on, homie. It's all family love,
That's beautiful, man. I wanted to, I did want to ask too, because I know you're talking about, you base the character off of people in your own life, right? But I do think anybody who might be a critic, and I think in general with, I guess anytime we represent our upbringing, there is a fine line, I think, between where we could become a stereotype that it could go like a negative way, right? It becomes a negative connotation towards what we're representing. How do you kind of walk that line? Because you're playing somebody who just got out of prison, you know what I mean? Who was involved in gangs and things like that, right? And there is truth to a lot of that story for many people who grew up in certain areas, right? They had family that was involved in that lifestyle. But then how do you tell it in a way that it doesn't become something that, kind of pigeonholes us, you know what I mean? Where a lot of people say, oh, white, writers or casting agents only want to see us in these types of roles. Like, what is that balance that you try to kind of find, or all of you tried to find in telling this story?
Yeah, I think it was mostly just going back to the authenticity of it. Like, we were just trying to like, because Luis, like Chris has a cousin named Luis, that's who it's based off. And then Chris knows my cousins who were always in and out of jail, doing their thing. And some are funny as fuck, but also like, you'd be chilling at a barbecue with them, and next day you hear they're in a high-speed chase and now they're doing 7 months or whatever. And it's like, but wait, dog, he would just fucking, I was just kicking it, like whatever.
Right. Yeah, you all those people where you're like, they seem so cool to you, and then all of a sudden you hear they did some wild shit. You're like, whoa, is that the same fucking person? It don't make no sense.
Dude, I feel like, it's so many stories like that, homie. Like, damn, that motherfucker, he did that? Like, he's cool as hell, like, it's crazy, man. But yeah, it's like, man, it to me, I was like, I know it's like, especially when Cholo Fit first went viral, I was getting a lot of that. Like, man, it's a bad look. He's making fun of us and da-da-da. And I love when I get people that, and it's happened so many times where people will be like, oh man, you know what? I was hating on you, homie, at first. Like, I thought you were just doing da-da-da. And then they were like, then I started really watching this shit and like, oh man, Creeper's like a real homie. Like, he's been through shit and he's all spiritual and like, he really is about some positive shit, And I'm like, yeah, dog, that's my dad. That's my father. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be like imitate something I don't know, and people that really fuck with the character, you could obviously tell like, okay, yeah, he knows, like, or whatever. It's like, my dad was always Chuck Taylor's, Dickies, always had a lowrider. his best friend is my godfather, my Nino, president of Viejitos Car Club for 30 years. Like, I was always around that shit, but around the positive side of it. Like, he was mostly into low riding and just working, man, taking care of his kids, but he always just repped the stilo, you know, fucking he always creased his dickies, creased his white tee, you know, he had his palm comb and his tres flores, you know, it's the pomade they use. And, you know, he always had a low rider. He had a 65 Impala with a chain steering wheel, but always driving me to Little League practice, always being a great father, man. And just, repping that Cholo steez and just being like, hey, mijo, like, lead with gratitude, treat people with respect, and work hard. All right. You always work. He always made me work, do chores, everything. Go to the park, hit me ground balls. Good ass dad, homie. Like, just cholo as fuck, but one of the most positive people I know. And that's where Creeper comes from. You know what I'm saying? And so when people get to know me and they fuck with me, they know that I'm not trying to be like, hey, look at how we are. And fucking, like, you know, hey, cachi, we're Latinos. We like tacos. And hey, I'm going to throw a tortilla at you if you act stupid. Full band. You know, it's like, there's all that shit too. And all that over the top slapstick shit, that's funny too, you know, but it's like, but I think people that really fuck with it and know it, that's why they're gravitated towards it, because they could sense that it comes from a real place. And that's the same with Luis, you know. Luis is, man, I was spending more time with my family, cousins, preparing for this role, constantly going back and forth with Chris. I was, you know, FaceTiming with his cousin, you know, like we really dove into the shit. And then once we started filming, you know, you're doing the 12, 15-hour days, and they have to put the tattoos on me. So I got to be there. Like, you know, my call time tomorrow is, I got to be there at 4:45 a.m. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, I got to lay there, get the things on. And so I'm Luis all day. And then when I go home, I just go right to bed and I wake up. So I just stay as this motherfucker. Like, I'm at the crib, you know, I live by myself. So I'm just like, even my thoughts are like, I'm thinking as Luis, you know, and I just stay as that. It gets a little weird sometimes because I'll kind of lose myself a little bit, but but in the end, man, it's like, fuck it, man. Let's just be this motherfucker till we bang this shit out. And then, I you know, I think it shows, and it's a lot of fun, man. And it's cool. You know, sometimes it's therapeutic for me because, you know, I battle with my shit too. Fucking, you know, depression, anxiety, childhood trauma. And sometimes when I could become somebody else, like, I think that's part of the reason I'm so good at character work, is because, you know, you get to float out of yourself for that time. And then not only does it help your soul, but you're bringing joy and laughter to a lot of people who you don't even know what they're going through. You never know what somebody's going through. You know, you walk by somebody on the street, they could have just lost a loved one, something. You don't fucking know, homie. So it's like when you see somebody smile or laugh, like, you know, that's good. That's good. And that you could be a part of that. It's like, damn, that shit's overwhelming sometimes, homie. It's shit really is medicine, you know?
No, bro, that's beautiful. And one thing that you said that I want to make sure we kind of like really fucking dive in on is, like, you're talking about your father meeting the like physical stereotypes as far as the way he dressed and the car that he drove, right, of this connotation. But actually, he's pushing back against all of that bullshit that society tries to say about like Mexicans from LA, right? That negative connotation where he's like, because I just think as Latinos here in America, we're often taught, like, if we want to be taken seriously, if we want to have a good life, if we want to be of sound character, a good citizen, we have to kind of discard all of the ethnic things that you know we grew up on, right? So that we can be taken seriously, right? You know what I mean? Like, so we can be viewed as like a good father figure, right? And we have to adapt what like white people have dictated is the norm, you know, the suit and all that bullshit, right? But actually, by you sticking to that as far as the physical appearance and doing a character like Creeper, who looks the part of what some people might view as like a stereotypical gang member from LA in the Mexican community, but he's actually showing you that there's so much to this community, right? We're not just one thing. We can, you know, wear the traditional things that feel like represent us and make us feel comfortable as a part of our community, as our culture. And we then also don't have to feed into any of the negative bullshit, right? And again, these are tropes that only are assigned to us as people of color, where like if we dress a certain way, you know, now we're considered ghetto or whatever. But meanwhile, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills could be wearing an off-white sweatsuit and nobody bats an eye about it, right? But like, you know, a black person in a sweatsuit is like, oh my God, like that's so unprofessional. They can't come into this nightclub establishment like that. You know what I mean? So I think even just talking to you, I'm realizing like, yeah, you're actually doing the work of pushing back against it. And yeah, it's in a funny way. And yeah, the way he's speaking maybe is somewhat stereotypical, but he's also like showing you a different side to someone who looks like that. And maybe that changes somebody's perception when they see somebody in a low rider with the, the Dickies and the high socks, that they won't immediately go to judge them as, this stereotype that the media has pushed down our throats.
Right. Yeah. You nailed it, man. Exactly. It's just like showing that other side, it's not just like one dimension, like, nah, they're dressed like that, they must definitely live like this or whatever.
Right,
it's like,
right.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's like you said, and unfortunately it's like just, people of our color community or whatever, that we're the ones that have to answer those questions, not the, the white dude, wearing a cowboy hat. It's like, oh, you must, you must have guns and shoot people. And
right.
It's like, 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 no, that's just an all-American guy there, it's like,
right. No, it's true. It's totally true. All right, but so last thing I want to ask you, because I find this to be the most fascinating part about your story, is 35 years old, still down and out, delivering sandwiches, sleeping on a couch. Like, most people are fucking giving up on the dream well before then. A, what kept you going, but also coming from, a Latin family, like, what the fuck did they think of what you were doing at that point in your life? Yeah. Like, take me to Frankie at 35 years old, who was still trying to figure it out.
Oh man, yeah, it was. My self-esteem wasn't the best, man. But honestly, I was grateful. Like, I hadn't got anybody pregnant, I didn't have any kids or stuff like that. So I really had to only worry about wiping my own ass as far as that goes, but and I had my homie was just like, yeah, man, you could crash on my leg. He believed in me too. He was like, give me $200 a month. I just had to give him $200 a month. I had to pay my cell phone bill and all that. And I would just get gig to gig, and some months I would have good months in comedy, and I'd be like, oh, hell yeah, I made a couple grand this month or whatever, just off comedy. But then the next month that wouldn't be the case, or, it was inconsistent when you start kind of making it. Right. It's very inconsistent. But for a while there, man, I was like the sinvergüenza of the family, which is like the black sheep, just like, and it's like, fuck, man. And my mom and dad, though, they always had stand-up on in the house and comedy. Old school funk music, rancheras, all this music, and comedy, homie. We watch A Living Color religiously. We watch, like, they used to let me watch Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy, George Carlin, fucking, all these OGs, man. They love stand up. When they were dating, they would go to like the Comedy Store and the Hollywood Improv, and they were about it like that. So they weren't surprised, and then I saw them like make something happen from nothing, like my mom, grew up in the projects, and my dad grew up around the corner. And then we used to live in a 1-bedroom apartment in the San Fernando Valley out here in LA. And but they grinded, homie. And we always had everything we needed: food on the table, roof over our head, and then they just were good parents, just like disciplining us. I mean, they used to beat the shit out of us, but who didn't back in the day? You know what I'm saying? So it was like,
it's a fact.
And so, and then eventually they moved us to the suburbs, and it was like, it was we weren't like balling, but it just wasn't the hood anymore. You know what I'm saying? Sure. It was like, there's white dudes rollerblading and shit. Like, oh shit, hell yeah. we had a black family next to us, Chinese family, Filipinos, a couple other Mexicans, and we'd be like, hell yeah, what's up? And then it was white people, so it was like, they made that happen. And my dad's still cruising, working on his lowrider in the driveway and shit, and the white people driving by like, okay, there's the Mexicans, like, and so. But they always kept it real, man. And they even then, they were always in over their heads trying to provide better opportunities for us. We were always getting our fucking water turned off or power turned off because they couldn't afford that house. But they were like, fuck it, we're going to make it happen. We're going to make it happen. And I saw that drive and just them and how the power of humor would get them through like the toughest times, man. Like, I remember, I still get like emotional about it, but I remember like walking in on them in the living room and they're crying and they didn't want to tell me why. And it was because they didn't know how they were going to fucking get the next meal for us or pay the next bill. They're so stressed out, and they didn't have to go through that, man. We could have stayed in that 1-bedroom apartment, but they wanted a better life for us. And so to like, and they made it happen, homie. They worked their way up. They ended up starting their own business doing it. So I was like, fuck, man, they did it, I could do it and do this. But there was like that window though. Nobody wants to see their 35-year-old son that they worked hard to. You know, I graduated from college and I was the first one on both sides of my family, and I have a big ass family, homie. First one on both sides of my family graduated from college, and so they, you know, they were like, "Come on, mijo, come on, mijo. You know, we did all this for you." But I was like, but they also were like, "Fuck, he's always been a payaso." You know, I was always getting in, you know, class clown, all that shit, and they're the ones that fucking always had stand up on. So they were like, fuck, they wanted me to pursue my dreams, but also like, come on, mijo, like get a real job kind of thing. And so, but I was like, when at that time when sorry, I'm rambling already, but
no, you're good, bro.
When I was like, you know, I'm fucking mid-30s, homie, sleeping on my homie's couch, and just like, they were worried. They were very worried about me, of course, you know, naturally. And so, but it honestly, homie, like deep down, I was like, all right, if I could get to a point, and I started getting there where I was like, okay, I'm starting to make whatever, consistently make, you know, $1,500, $2,000 a month doing comedy. I was like, all right, man, if I could just get there, like, I wasn't like trying to be like, if you get in it and you're like, what do I need to do to be famous or da-da-da, like you might make it there, but it's going to be a short career, homie. You know what I mean? It's like, in my opinion, I don't know, but everybody has a different path. But I was like, I really was on some shit where I'm like, nah, this is why I'm here, like on this earth. If I die trying to do this shit, this is what it's going to be, because this is what I feel like God put me here for, whatever it is. I'm like, I have to do this, homie, or else I'm not going to be right in the head. Like I'm going to get, you know, go through some shit. And so I don't know, I stuck with it, man. And then eventually I got to a point where, you know, I started to see the light at the end of the tunnel, you know, like, oh shit, homie, it's going to pop off, you know? And then I started kind of reasoning with myself. I'm like, well, damn, homie, it kind of takes 10 years in any profession to really make it. You know what I mean? You want to become a lawyer, you want to become a doctor, that's just going to take you 10 years, homie, all the school and all that. And so I was like, all right, fuck it. Like, so, you know, cause I had already been doing it 10 years, and I'm like, all right, man, hopefully it pops out soon. And then I started kind of seeing the results. And then I remember, you know, I was still busting tables, and then we got an opportunity to make some digital, whatever, like a digital platform to do videos and stuff. And then so we did a video called Cholo Whisper, and then we did that back in like, I don't know, it was fucking 2012 or 13 anyway. And we remade it, and that's when Creeper gets rescued from the CRS, the Cholo Rescue Services. And then that one got like 500,000 views. People are like, you got to make a part 2. And so I was like, well, what's going to be the next step? And he was already kind of doing some yard workouts in the backyard. And so I was like, I know he could teach a workout class in the backyard. He's gonna have trouble getting a job, but he could teach a workout class in the backyard. Right. And then we just did Cholo Fit, and most of it was like kind of improv on the spot. We put that out, and then it was like wildfire, homie. We literally like posted it. We saw I was doing good, went to sleep, woke up, and it was just like all the inboxes exploding, all the things, and getting messages from Australia and Thailand. And I was like, what the fuck, homie? And that's when it changed. But I was like, there it is, homie. Like, I didn't know what was going to pop off for me. I just believed that it was going to happen one day. And if not, then I was already feeling good enough. Like, all right, I'm like, fuck it, man. If I can get to a point where I'm making $3-4 a month doing comedy, like I made it, you know what I'm saying? Right. And then, but now, you know, obviously that it just kept going. And I honestly feel it just because I had good family, I had good support. And, you know, you meet a lot of comics or whatever that are funny as fuck. You're like, damn, man, how come you anything? And it's because like, oh, you see like, oh shit, you know, they got baby mama drama or da-da-da, or like these other things to take their time and energy, sucking their time and energy out of them. That wasn't that. So I was grateful that, you know, the only responsibility I had was to take care of myself and then do that. And then now, and to have that support, not everybody has that, you know what I'm saying? Like to have a mom and dad, and my mom and dad are still married, still together, still rocking, and to have them like, you know, supporting you like that, and to be cool as fuck, and to be the homies, and then to surround yourself with good people, and to not get caught up in the bullshit, man. Cause you know how it is, homie, in this industry. Yeah. People, you be surrounded by yes men, and next thing you know, everybody's gone, and you're there by yourself. Yep. And what happened? You said you were the shit, and you were the top dog, and da-da-da. Right. Now you got nothing because you fed into all the fake shit. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm grateful that I got that experience where sleeping on my homie's couch in my 30s, being broke, you know, sleeping with, and getting paid with Taco Bell and paying those dues, and because you have to be humbled. And when I was like 2 years in, I was like, oh shit, I'm about to blow up, homie. Like it's about to be cracking. And then you realize that, nah, homie, that's not how it works. It's a marathon and you got to work for it, So yeah. Anyways, man, sorry, I rambled on, but I was saying, I was just like, even though I was going through tough time and scraping by and not feeling the best about myself, sleeping on my homie's couch and shit like that, deep down in my soul and in my heart, I knew I was like, I could be the most insecure motherfucker, but one thing I believe in is my ability to entertain. You know what I'm saying? And so I just had to run with that and believe in it with all my heart. And gracias a Dios, homie, it got me here. So, hopefully last for a little bit longer.
Yeah, I mean, listen, dude, I think that's so inspiring just because you didn't set your sight on all that comes along with the art. You actually focused on the art itself, right? Like you focus on how do I be great at this fucking thing? And like, I think the idea of like, I'm not trying to be the most famous person in the world. I just want to honestly be able to just do the thing that I love doing and be able to eat, right? Like at the end of the day, if I can do that, I'm good. And I think that leads you to the discipline that you're talking about, right? Not getting caught up in the fucking lifestyle of, being out here partying all the time and you're meeting Hollywood people and, getting invited to this and that and getting lost and wrapped up and focusing your time on the shit that actually doesn't really do much for you. It just kind of pats your ego, and man, that's beautiful. I commend you. And I resonate with it so much because I probably just got stable like 2 years ago. I'm 35 now. So for me, this was a really long journey of just fucking being in it and trying whatever and just, whatever got me to the next month. You know what I mean? That's what I had to do. And yeah, I wouldn't have it any other way now that I think about it in retrospect. It's similar to what you're saying, man. But bro, I really appreciate you, man. I've loved having this convo. It's been a pleasure to get to meet you and hear your story. I know we got season 2 of this fool, right? You guys are in the midst of starting to film that. Anything else you want to push people to that you're working on that they should know about?
Yeah, well, I got a podcast. It's on, it's on iHeart also, but on Will Ferrell's network, Big Money Players, but it's called the Frankie Quinones Show. And it's like mostly like sketches, like scripted sketches where I do voices, characters, a lot of creeper in there and stuff like that. But yeah, you just go to FrankieQuinonesShow.com or wherever you listen to podcasts. And then yeah, homie, we got that season 2. And then after we're in the 3rd week right now. And I'm really excited about it, man. We're going all out this second season. So yeah, please be on the lookout for that. And then and then I'll be hitting the road and touring starting in May. So yeah, just check that out, FrankieQuinones.com. And thanks for having me, man. That was a great conversation. You asked a lot of good questions. I'm like, sometimes you get hit with questions. You're like, oh man, we're talking about this again. But yeah, you're great, man. Good vibe and good conversation, bro. Thank you so much.
Nah, I appreciate you, my bro. It's been a pleasure.
Right on.
Man, big shout out to my guest this week, Frankie Quinones, for hopping on. I hope that you loved that conversation as much as, I did getting to have it with him. I really was just like, man, I don't want to say pleasantly surprised because I think everybody has a story to tell, but Frankie is just super down to earth. And I think that the conversation, went beyond even my greatest, expectation, what it could have been. We really, I feel like, got to see the person behind all these crazy characters and got to really hear his story. And I know that for me, afterwards, I just felt super inspired, and especially with just how crazy I've been working recently and like how my anxiety has been acting up on me and depression a bit. I definitely felt like a little bit of relief after this conversation. So I hope that it provided some of that for you guys. Now, this conversation did go a little longer than expected, so no Ask a Gringo for today's show. I know I'm slacking. Definitely for our Thursday trends, we'll get into it. So without further ado, let's kind of tie everything we talked about today in a neat little bow in a segment we call Conclusion Stew.
Time for Conclusion Stew.
All right, so I don't know really where to kind of summarize. I feel like we hit on so many different fucking things in that conversation with Frankie. Big shout out to him. Go check out this fool if you haven't yet. But, I think for me, one of the big takeaways was him being so honest about where he was at the age of 35, which I think for many people is well past the point where they would have given up on their dreams. And I'm sure many people listening to this have, or felt like they should, or if you're younger, you're looking at your 30s and saying, man, I can't keep trying to make something happen once I hit 30. Or if you're like me, like I said, I just, got stable in my life probably 2 years ago. So, and I'm 35 now. And that resonates for me so much, his story of just like the grind that it takes to get here. But I just hope that inspires anybody listening. Like, of course, 35 doesn't mean your life is over, but societal standards like to tell us that we should have this by that point, right? We should have the house, we should have the marriage, the kid, the car, whatever it is. That's what society tells us. And I think when you hear people like Frankie speak so honestly about the fact that it took them a while to find their footing and to find the success that they had been searching for, but that they refused to give up, because they knew it was their purpose, their calling, and they just kept putting in the work and stayed focused and kept making the sacrifices needed. I think that's just a testament to man, never giving up and to continue chasing after the thing that speaks to you. And even if it means that you have to do it, on the weekends or at night, because you got a family to provide for, and you got to do your 9-to-5 stuff. That's understandable, but like, do not give up on yourself. And even with him talking about doing the things that he was doing, with the understanding that like, it wasn't about just getting rich, and it wasn't even about getting rich at all. It was the idea that this is what I love to do. And I'm just focused on being able to make enough money that I get to do this on a regular basis, right? That's the ultimate dream. The excess of wealth or fame or whatever, that's all extras. But, the ultimate dream, the ultimate goal should be that you get to do the very thing that you love to do every day, and that you get to, provide for yourself and the people around you doing so, right? Again, everything else is the extras, and even him talking about just being dedicated to his craft and working at it, not giving up and all of the above, I just think is a testament to so many, man, I don't know, just fucking inspirational. I'm really inspired by hearing that without a doubt. And I also think like the conversation about his dad, right? Looking the part of what somebody might call a stereotypical kind of like cholo, and all the negative connotations that come along with it, but him sort of being able to be someone who breaks out of that, right? And that we don't have to change who we are, don't have to change the things that we like or the things from our culture or community just to fit into society's idea of what somebody who is successful looks like, or what being a good dad looks like, or being an upstanding member of society, whatever that fucking looks like. Like, you can do all of that while not having to sacrifice your authenticity in the process. And to me, that's like the big takeaway from this conversation as well. And even, it's something that he's living with the character that he's playing in this Fool, and them writing this show as a whole, I just think is a testament to that. You don't have to change who you are to meet society's bullshit standards. We can break out of these dumb stereotypes that have been set for us while still maintaining an attachment to our culture. And we don't need to, tap dance for these white people who don't want to get it at the end of the day. Or shit, anybody who doesn't want to get it at the end of the day, for that matter. And that's it, man. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. Again, big shout out to Frankie Quinones for hopping on the show. My book, Just Be, pre-order is available now, justbe.nyc. The Street Stoke, my second podcast, available right now, anywhere you find podcasts, Monday through Friday. And that's it, man. I'm done with the promo. I appreciate y'all. I will catch you on Thursday for our Thursday Trends episode. So then, stay safe, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace.